Number one, the best CRM out there is...
So the big question is, what are the top agents doing to absolutely crush it in real estate, grow their teams, and add more transactions year over year while so many struggle? If you ever thought about this, you're not alone. No one has been able to get the answers until now.
We spent the last few years helping agents sell billions in real estate, rubbing shoulders with top producers, which got us thinking, how can we expose more people to these insights to help raise the standard in the whole real estate industry? We then realized that we could help bridge the gap by getting the secrets from the best of the best so that you can succeed. My name is Andrew Dunn.
And my name is Peter Michael. Welcome to Elite Agent Secrets.
Let's dive into the second part, which again, me and Peter being systems guys, people who listen, realtors not known necessarily, again, if we're doing some blanket statements, for being the most systemized people, but how important systems, CRMs, automations, things like that. I know you want to dive into automation and how that really does lift a ton of weight off people if it gets built properly, if they build it properly, buy into the right system. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about what you mean by automation.
Yeah, so automation is a key essential tool when you're going to be spending money when it comes to online lead generation. It's the number one way that you're going to be able to organize everything and have an understanding and track everything for you, because at the end of the day, you really are only one person or you're one team, and you don't want to be working these leads off of a Google sheet, which I've heard, or no sheets at all, just taking them as they hit your phone. You have to have systems that can identify who are your warmest, hottest prospects, and when is the next appropriate time to reach out, and what is the most appropriate message to send them. And with the right automations in place, this can really take a lot of that workload off of you. It should be saving you a lot of time. I will say with a caveat, automation is only as good as the people, the real humans who operate it. So it's there to do some of the heavy lifting, but only not to the detriment where people know that they're just only ever interacting with a bot.
Right. So when it comes to automation, do you recommend like certain tools, certain types of automations, certain messaging, cadencing? Yeah, it would be nice to understand for people listening, if they were to go and try and build something, what that could kind of look like for them, what they should focus on doing, and some messaging maybe that's involved with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, the best CRM out there is one that you're going to consistently use. So, there are some really, really great CRMs out there that are very robust and that can pull all kinds of lists and create a buyer's profile and do all these fancy things. And if you're a tech person and that's your jam, then get into it, learn how to do it. That's going to be a big tool, and that's a strong suit of yours. If you are not that person, the things that I always say is like, you look at a kid's Lego box and it's just like all these messed up colors. If you're the type of person who thinks I should separate those into their own individual colors, then you are probably a good systems person who can put something well together. But if you're just happy looking at a big old pile of Lego and you can create something out of that, maybe you're not of that other brain side. But a good automation will have a cadence structure that will allow for the real human touch phone call to come in. But then outside of that 15-minute window is when we start to, the first point should be a text message. And I like to get a little sneaky with the first few text messages and make it look like it's not just an automation. So the first text message should respond back to why that person reached out. Was it for a home listing? Was it for a list of properties with a pool? Have a little bit of context behind that. So a good example is, hey, Mr. Prospect, I see that you requested a list of pool homes in the area of Dallas under 600,000. And then the next message that we send, maybe a minute after that, it will say, oh, I forgot to ask, are you looking for a fixer-upper or are you looking for a move-in ready? Something like, oops, I forgot, or there's another question I forgot to ask you, can make it look a little bit more conversational and actually get you more positive replies. Once that positive reply comes in, that's where you want to do a little bit of internal testing, whether you should just text right back or just give a phone call back. We prefer to just, as soon as we get a positive reply, we have an automation set up that will have an internal notification that will send in an ISA to physically call back that person. If they don't pick up the phone, then we text them and try to carry on that conversation. But in terms of a structure of what you should look at, from your follow-up and your automation, it should include text messages, emails, voicemail drops, and they should really follow up for about a year, if not maybe even up to 18 months, depending on, how large you want your text messaging fees to be. There are some ways to reduce that by, obviously reducing down the number of text messages that you do towards the end. But typically what we find is that after the first 9 attempts of physically phoning somebody, they're usually not going to pick up after that. So we will do the texting and the email. And then every 6 weeks, we run a reactivation campaign. So this is really important. You should be trying to reach back out to the people continuously through your funnel. So that's a bit of a cadence there. And then, about in terms of the messaging, keep your text messages very conversational. And then your emails, this is where we have an opportunity to be a little bit more formal, show off our branding, show off that professional side.
100%. One thing
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
I was going to say one thing that I started doing, and this was in the last couple of weeks, and this is, it really changed our response rates to leads coming in, was our initial message was basically like a big text. It was like, hey, Peter, this is Andrew from XYZ. I saw you just filled out a form and wanted to touch base with you. When would be a good time for a call? It was like that, which isn't like, it's on the surface, it's not like awful.
Mm-hmm.
We had a 10% response rate. And I was like, Jesus, man, like they've got to do something better here. And like, because we tried a bunch of different stuff. So anyway, we're like, okay, well, let's try making it just look superhuman. So if you haven't done this, you might not have as well. Anyone can learn from this. We send now 3 messages. And the first one is, hey, Peter, send, right? Then the next one is, I saw you were interested in XYZ, send. Next one, I just wanted to make sure, you are definitely interested. This is correct. Some like a type of question, send. What tends to happen is one or two things. After you send, hey, Peter, they'll respond, who's this? And then you're like, great, right? This is great. And then you're like, hey, it's Peter and you're interested in this, XYZ. The other one is they let all 3, because they all go straight away after each other. But sometimes people are just super fast and the system might wait, 20 seconds because it's got a slight delay. And then after the third, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm interested. Yeah, that's great. Like, and it's instantly more human. The other thing that you said you do, which we do as well, which is like making a on purpose mistake. So I'm not sure if you've ever done the whole autocorrect mistake where you spell a word wrong on purpose. You then send an instant message straight after with the asterisks with it spelled correctly and just put something like damn autocorrect. And all of a sudden people's guard just comes way down. So just for numbers for everyone, we were at 10%. Booking people like, yeah, I'd love to book a time. Went up to 70% by just changing from one big message to those 3. Huge difference. And it's just because they're like, oh, I'm speaking to Peter. When it's like, actually, that's an automation. Then, Peter comes and takes over the messaging. I take over the messaging and then we're off to the races. And it's like, if you're getting that receptiveness from leads, it's huge. It's huge.
It's also about like, how do you text your friends? How do you text your buddies? How do you text your girlfriends? Like, I am literally looking at my messages and auditing them to see how I talk to them. So like when we make a new message or new cadence, we pull up a message, like for example, between Andrew and I, and it's like, how do we text? What are the quote unquote mistakes? Like, are we making the messages long or short? Is there 3 or 4 messages? So yes, quote unquote, the cost can be increased, but a 10% versus a 70% response rate all day. I'll take that all day for the 0.01 of a cent that it's going to take me to send another message at scale, right? So it's huge.
I say duck a lot, apparently, in my messages. It's a fucking nightmare. Automation is huge and it can be leveraged. Like you said, listen, Google Sheet is better than nothing. But like, really getting yourself involved with a good CRM to help you and get this built out. And I'm sure, with what you do, you obviously help do all this, and you've got all these cadences all built out for people. And I think what I think you're trying to do and doing, it's not a trying, and what we also try and do as well is that it's like, we understand how hard this is. Like, it isn't like, here's the thing, it's not easy, but it's not nearly as hard as people make it. That's the thing. It's like, it's not as easy as everyone sells it, but it's not as hard on the flip side that everyone says it is either. It's like, the initial bit is just getting some things in place, that's what you're doing. You're like, let's just get your shit in order. Let's just get everything lined up so you can be successful. And then it's just a matter of focus, which is where this is a huge proponent of what we do. It's like, we've got this whole, you just have one system. You can make 7 figures. We've spoken about this on numerous podcasts now, from one lead source, right? And it's like, you don't need to be doing,
dial it in.
Yeah, you don't need to be doing TikTok ads and Instagram posting and YouTube organic and YouTube paid and Facebook. It's like, no, you make 7 figures from just Facebook. You can make 7 figures just from YouTube. You can make 7 figures from just TikTok. Like, choose, you need to find out where you're at, right? But what, like you have, it's like, I just know Facebook works, same as we do. And we're like, so, it's only after we've been doing this we're in our 3rd year now. And now we're like, okay, let's look at YouTube organic. It's like 3 years, guys. 3 years. This isn't like, oh, we're going to dabble in phases. 3 years. And now we're going, okay, let's now have a little dabble with another lead source, right? And let's see how organic YouTube works for us. This is a good thing, a big thing as well for us. It might not work. Like, YouTube is very much like, some people are very watchable. Some people you just want to absorb. You like, you gobble them up and you're like, God, they're entertaining. And some people aren't. And, that's just partiality. At the end of the day, the audience speaks. And if they're not watching your stuff, like, you can't, yeah, I'm sure you could get help, but I think Facebook can work for everybody. There's a different skill set to learn with working the leads. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. Now, before you go, we're giving access to a private training we did where we revealed the top 3 niches to get listings today completely for free. So if you want access, you can go and download that training at eliteagentsecrets.com. We're regularly releasing new trainings, guides, and cheat sheets, so make sure to head over to eliteagentsecrets.com and sign up so you don't miss out.